Hello, good evening, and welcome to Fair Falcon Predictions. It's 8:05 p.m. on Central Time Zone here in the DFW Metroplex. We've had some floods that have made national news. It was 4th or 5th on the top this morning on CNN, if I recall correctly. But things are good, and things are getting more peaceful here. So without further ado, we're going to hop into this video. So tomorrow, there are quite a few elections going on from Florida to New York. I believe there's some other runoffs elsewhere, potentially. But I'm excited about general elections, special elections, and really things I see as the most consequential, even if the national media has been ignoring it for several weeks in the grand scheme of things. But they're finally starting to pay attention now. So, anyways, this is New York 19th Congressional District, and these are the old lines that is under. So I want to remind you all that this district and its old format that will be having the elections tomorrow, it's the final hurrah for it. And the new district is actually going to be quite a bit bluer, not quite a bit, but 3 or 4 points bluer. It's going to ditch some of these areas here. It's going to go into Ithaca, Tompkins County here, which is 75 to 80% Biden or so, 70% Democratic. It has some university there. It's about 100,000+ people there. And good news for Democrats is they will actually be having non-COVID college-type attendance numbers in these areas, barring something unforeseen, so that should be helpful to them. But for now, we're just focused on the old iteration of the district. You can see it's a mishmash of areas. It's pretty much the no man's land between the northern suburbs of New York City and then right south of Albany, New York here. So Albany suburbs and New York City exurbs. You can see the presidential numbers here. So I want to stress this is not really an ancestral Democratic seat. It's more of an ancestral Republican seat, as you can see here. This composite number is somewhat normal. I do not know if it has the Senate skewed in here. It does look like it has the Senate skewed in here according to what is listed under here, but they kind of removed the data set for Senate 2016, that is not 2018, in terms of displaying election results, and that's okay because it's not a very relevant barometer. I just like putting everything here, but in reality, if they don't include this right here, it would probably be opposite. Instead of 50-47D for the composite, it would be flipped. But anyways, here are the presidential election results for 2020 in the congressional seat. You can see one of the areas that really helped Biden flip it from last time, because we can see Biden won it by about 2 points, 50-48. You can see Trump won it by 6 points in 2016, 50-44. Was improving in these sorts of areas like Dutchess County, these exurbs of New York. A little bit in the other areas like here, this belt here, even a little bit in Otsego up here and other places. A little less so here, but these areas, they barely moved at all. This area somewhat moved. And that is, somewhat indicative of the broader rural, urban, suburban, exurban trends across the country, although they're a little less wild here, especially since the rural areas are in the 60s for the Republicans. So that's obviously a lot less red than a lot of other places just south of the border here in Pennsylvania. And these suburbs and exurbs are quite blue. So it is a competitive seat. And we can scroll down here. The Senate number for 2018, that is also roughly the amount that Antonio Delgado won by last time. And it was very dumb, as I've spoken in the previous videos, to pick Antonio Delgado for lieutenant governor. Kathy Hochul should have picked somebody from down here like Greg Meeks or something to avoid this whole mess, but she didn't. And then, of course, Mr. Delgado won his seat by flipping it from John Faso in 2018, and he won by a couple points more than the Attorney General's race, as well as the presidential race that would take place in 2 years from that point in time. So the map for the 2018 race should look somewhat similar. The 2018 race is pretty much completely unrealistic. It's not going to happen. I just put that out there for reference compared to last time. Popular incumbent versus an unfunded nobody. And then, of course, you have 2018, we just talked about. And it's going to be one of those type of things where it's not going to be like 2020, where it's not a blow up. But 2018 was still a 5-point win for the Democrats in this district. That's also not very realistic either. A Democratic win is barely realistic here. A Republican win, you will see in my prediction, is the most likely outcome. But scrolling here for the governor's race, this is quite relevant, at least in terms of the candidates. The Democrats nominated a C plus to B minus tier candidate. He's ahead of this Ulster County region here. He absolutely needs to run it up here if he has any prayer of winning. And the Republicans, instead of nominating Pat Ryan for the Democrats, they nominated Mark Molinaro, who lost the governor's race in 2018 as the Republican nominee to Andrew Cuomo, but he did quite well as the sacrificial lamb, and he absolutely killed it in this district, winning by 11 points. I've seen some people saying they think he's going to win by 6 to 12. As much as I think he's going to win, there's no way he can win by more than 1 point in this governor's race this time. Sorry, it's just not happening. But he is from the very critical Dutchess part of the region, which Trump won by several points last time, not the county overall, but this part that's in this district, and then Biden won it by about 4-ish last time. So Molinaro is absolutely going to clean house in this part of the district, which is almost going to guarantee him to win. Well, Pat Ryan will probably only get a little boost out of Ulster. Molinaro is not a weakling, but I am erring a little more on the side of caution, despite I have said I think this will be a GOP flip because of how things have underperformed my expectations for the Republicans over the past several weeks. If you asked me 8-10 weeks ago or so, I would have said it would have been this governor's margin, but I don't think so. I think the range is 2 to 6 for Molinaro, and if Ryan wins, that would be a surprise to me. So that's pretty much all I have to say about the district as a whole. I'll talk a little bit about Pat Ryan. I think he's running a bit too much on the abortion issue, despite this is a time where abortion has been a little bit more prevalent and helpful for Democrats than I first saw, but you still can't just run a one-man campaign around it. I think that will be one, but not the entire reason Pat Ryan loses. And Molinaro is a moderate. I haven't looked into it that much, especially by these standards, but I'm sure he favors the standard exceptions. He's not, like his neighbor Doug Mastriano to the south, where he would want women to carry pregnancies even if it was a health risk or something like that, which is less than 1% of cases. And I'll admit I'm openly pro-life, but just not to the extent that Doug Mastriano is on like a Youngkin level in terms of the abortion stances. But without further ado, we will go to my prediction. You can just see here, we just finished this up a few minutes ago, but here it is in all its glory. I think Molinaro will win by a little over 3% with this sort of turnout. Here's the map here. And I will say that I think results will probably pour in faster than previous nights, but if it is a close election, it could potentially take a few days, not Alaska lengths of time, but we will see. So I do think Pat Ryan gets a little boost out of Ulster County. Biden got 59.5%. I think Pat Ryan can maybe hit 61, 62 on a good night, but that's not going to be enough considering what's going to happen in the rest of the district. And frankly, that's not even giving him much of a leg up over Biden, considering there was like 3% or so of votes for independent candidates, third-party candidates in the 2020 election, and for this election, Molinaro and Pat Ryan are the only two ones on the ballot. They have the unique kind of New York system, kind of a little bit like Minnesota, not exactly, but they have the conservative and working families nominations, and both these guys respectively got their own. There's no green or libertarian. I don't even know if there's a declared write-in, but there's a write-in slot, and it'll probably get a negligible 0.2, 0.3% or whatever, so you can deduct a little bit from each of them, but it's going to be inconsequential in all likelihood. So, Pat Ryan could even get a few decimal points better than Biden in Ulster County, and yet the margin could be trimmed down as a result of that, but I'll say he does about on par with Biden. He'll get about 61% here, so the margin will be quite similar. Dutchess County, this area, which Biden won by 4, I think Trump won it by like 6 or 7, something like that, this part, if not a little more. I think Molinaro might even climb past that. He might come close to 10 or so in this part of the seat. Columbia will be radically trimmed down, but it's not going to be a flip in all likelihood, even if Molinaro did very well in it last time. This is a federal race after all. Things are a little different. As much as Pat Ryan is not great, I still think he is better than Andrew Cuomo even before the scandals. But this rural farm country belt that swung to Biden a little bit, just a little bit past the trends, it should come back into the column because, as with previous special elections for the Republicans, they have not really suffered too badly in the rural area. So I think this will be fine. I think Sullivan and Otsego, as well as a few other areas here. Up here, I forgot this county name, but I think they will move a little bit to Molinaro, similar to the shift of the district overall from 2020 presidential to what these special election results will be. I think this part, I forgot one of them's Columbia, maybe Rensselaer's up here, but whatever this chunk is here, that's not fully filled in because that's how the maps go. This part, a lot of these parts, I think this part for sure is not even in the new district, but we're talking about the old district. So I think this part went for Trump by 9 or so in 2020. Molinaro is going to clean up 15 plus here. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be relatively uniform except for Ulster as well as this area down here, Dutchess, Columbia, I think, but I'm not sure. So don't quote me on that. But this blue county right here in the 50 to 60, it also may not shift a ton, but it will shift probably in line with the district. So basically these two areas in sort of the opposite but not equal ways, as well as a few other areas maybe down here in southern Sullivan, they are maybe not going to follow the shift exactly, but the rest of the area will, especially the areas up here. They will follow this area maybe a little more, and these areas a tad bit less, but we'll see because these areas aren't super elastic for comparison in this district. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you. I don't know exactly when polls open and close. Central time, it's probably similar to 7 to 7, probably a couple hours off, but you know what, it's not a big deal. And we will see where things take us. I will have a governor prediction out probably later this week. We'll go through it same as the Senate way with the tilts, leans, likelies, and safes because there's just more time to digest something that's not a house map. And I think that's pretty much it. There will be a couple other races that I'll be interested in to watch. I want to see if Sabatini makes it in Florida, and a couple other races in New York where they held their local but not federal primaries yet. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Looking forward to producing more content for you guys later in the week. Without further ado, won't take up any more of your day. Take care, guys. See you later.